Today we are building a tapered planter box. My build does not require 6,000 pieces. There are no complicated and confusing angles, and it won't require you to spend 2 hours drilling pocket holes. I reviewed other tapered planter boxes on this platform to find out not a lot. It's like they displace information, so you have to buy the plans. This should answer the dirt weight question. So let's solve this not so complex angled labyrinth and add it to my arsenal of free plans, available on whosthevoss.com. I'm going to attempt this build using only 3 pickets. First, I set my miter saw to 8 degrees and made my initial cut. Common angles are 8 degrees or 5 degrees, depending on how quickly you want your planter to flare out at the top. Flip your board over, measure 14 inches from the top, and make your second cut. Now, using your 14-inch piece, cut a second matching piece. Flip the board over again and measure 12 3/4 of an inch. Make your cut, flip the board, and use that piece to create a duplicate. The remaining sliver of wood is going to become our planter box's bottom, so just set that aside for now. These top ring of boards I'm going to call board A, and the 12 3/4 being 1 1/4 inches less than our 14-inch piece means that when I put them together, it's going to make a perfect square, just as it did on the 3-picket planter. And you can use this same method for any custom boxes you're building for your customers. Whatever the long side is, deduct 1 1/4 of an inch and cut the other side, so that way it makes a square when you put everything together, because it takes into account the thickness of your material. And to avoid confusion down the road, I mark these as board A. A plus, because you're looking good. And now we'll just set these boards aside. We're going to cut that bottom ring of boards. Grab your next picket and cut the angle at the end. The bottom of my 14-inch board A is going to be the top measurement for my board B, or 12 3/8 of an inch. Cut 2 pieces at that measurement, and remember to flip the board so your angles are correct. Double check for any oopsies, and repeat this step for the second 12 3/4 inch board A's. Cutting 2 more pieces at 11 1/4 of an inch, flipping your board, and making sure that your hand toes are out of the way. It's just a little weird that the difference between these 2 boards is 1 5/8 of an inch, and between these 2 boards is 1 1/2 inches. They should be the same. It's probably something I did. These 2 boards we are going to revolutionize into the bottoms when we get there. Right now, we got 1 more board to cut. First, rip 2 pieces at 1 3/4 of an inch. One of these pieces is for the legs, and the other is going to be our top lip. Then set your table saw to 1 1/8 of an inch and cut the final piece, which is for our skinnier leg. The extra waist piece is going to be used as a cleat to better support the bottom. Here is an easy trick to cutting your legs. Grab 1 3/4 inch and your 1 1/8 inch boards. Reset your miter saw to 0 and cut 4 13-inch pieces. These are the shorter and wider legs for each side. I'm also cutting 4 1 3/4 inch pieces from our 1 3/4 inch board to give me a few little squares. Grab your baby slice and cut 2 pieces at 9 inches. These are for those cleats. With all of our pieces cut, we need to visit the saw just one last time, and that is to cut the bevels on these guys right here. The top board, we need to cut because, our planter is going to be like this. I need to cut to make this top lip actually match up and fit, because right now, it doesn't. And we also need to repeat that to the bottom board, so it's flat and flush on the bottom. This is a step that you could pass up, but it doesn't take long. I'm only doing it to the top and bottom. This center joint, it's already at 90. It can stay how it is. And it just adds a little bit extra je ne sais quoi. Set your table saw to 8 degrees and trim off just enough to create our angle. Not much at all. Do this for the top of your top boards and the bottom of our bottom boards. With everything cut out except for our bottom boards and that top lip. What the? Did you do this? Oh no, that was me making like 6,000 mistakes. So I went through here, repeated all the steps to remake it so I can show you guys how to not make those mistakes. Let's take a look. That's cool. Interrupting air compressor says what? No, oh no, oh no. Mistakes happen. Delete the part about confusing angles because they're all confusing. It's a tapered planter box. Yeah, this box is a bust. And that's a pretty big handful of problems that you don't have to make now. You're welcome. So let's build it for real. I'm using Titebond 3. It is a exterior waterproof glue. Titebond 2 is just water resistant. And this being a planter box, you might want to pick up 3. It is a lot more runny than Titebond 2 or 1. You're going to find that out. I prefer it. Some people do not. You do. You do you. I have a 1-inch 18 gauge brad nail. 1-inch 18 gauge. Not stainless, not galvanized. 4 years of planter boxes outside. Do not even have an issue. There's no rust coming down. Just a simple Bostitch nail I picked up at Lowe's. I've heard you can get the galvanized ones at Harbor Freight if you have one of those near you. You're going to need a pull saw or a flush cut saw. Later on, $6, $7. Pick one up. World of things you can do with it. It's a very handy saw. I have 2 pieces of cleat. That's going to be for the bottom. These are just bracing pieces for the legs. We'll get to those. Our side pieces, the skinnier and fatter legs. And then we'll cut the lip, cut the bottom, because that's kind of the last step. One of the big issues that I had made was that my angles did not match up. We cut those 8-degree angles with the table saw on the top and bottom. Here's a very simple way to remember how your angles need to go for this step. If you're standing over your planter box like this, judging it, right? And you look to the bottom, B. I know I turned it sideways. You're gonna see that angle's pitch because you can see the angle. You see that little bit of angle right there. Ding, that right there, bam. At the top, you don't see anything because that angle is going down towards the bottom. You see an angle? No. You see an angle? Yes. Easy way to remember it. Otherwise, if you take 2 of your B boards and you put them on your workbench, they should sit flush on the workbench and taper out as they should. Same with A. Even though these bottom angles are not cut, when you put these boards together, these should match up. If they don't match up, you've got them the wrong direction. Okay. That was one of the major problems. So I'm going to take a 14 and a 12 3/8 board, just like this. Take my handy glue, squeeze it down the sides. I am taking the skinnier 1 1/8 board, and I'm just going to leave it about a 1/2 inch on the top and 1.5 1.25 on the bottom. Line it up flush with the side, just like this, and 3 nails into each. You can I don't need all the nails from that one, just this one. But they're not guessing that one. $14, 12 3/8. Repeat that process one more time. These don't have to be exact to match up with those, just so you have a little bit of a lip, a little bit longer lip for the bottom. Now I'm just going to flip up my pieces, add some glue down the sides. It's not important to get glue on these 2 little ends. It just needs to be here in the center. Put a little bit right there, just a bit. And then this board, I have it backwards to show you the first one. It's going to line up flush with my front board there. Put her into place. You don't have to shoot nails into these spots. Just get it into the meat of the wood. And then just repeat that for all the sides. Let's spin it around so I can see the front. If you got a side that has some goobers, just put that towards the inside, you know. Make your planter look a little nicer. Our cleat is going to attach to the bottom interior part of our 12 3/8 board B. So he just goes in here. You're going to center him because there are boards going next to him as well. You can put glue on the nice side that you have cut. You can put it on the rough side. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to stand them both up just like we do all the other boxes. I'm going to run a bead of glue down the interior. You can stop before you get to this weird cutoff spot of the legs. And I'm going to first line up board A. Again, that angle piece is going to face the inside. It's going to match up with the angle that I currently have in the box. Seems like a lot of angle, but I know it's right. Put some pressure in the center. 3 nails. And our board B, again, I put the stickers on the outside, so I just flip them over. He gets tucked in underneath that cleat. Then we're going to repeat that on this interior side. Look at that. Look how nice you can see right in. Dang. Now I'm going to measure for the inside. And the inside, in theory, should be the same as the measurement for our 11 1/4 inch board B. However, because it tapers down and below, I just want to get that measurement last, just to make sure it's right. This measurement should be the one you can cut it to in the plan. So if you've already cut out all your pieces, not a big deal. I just want to make sure that it is right for you guys. 9 3/4 inch. For that, setting my saw back to 0 degrees. Make my initial cut. And then 9 3/4 inch. Ooh, okay. There is one. I didn't put the angles on it. You can see the little spacing. That's all right. It's the bottom. No one sees it's going to have dirt or a liner on top of it. That is board 1. However, our second board, because it's not as big as the 3 picket planer, it doesn't go straight down, needs to be trimmed. You can just set your board inside of there to grab a measurement. Or you can just measure it. Looking at 4 1/4 on this guy. So I'm going to trim him down really quick. Yeah, something like that. Little glue, doesn't matter which one you start with. Pop them in. Now remember, there's not a board on like the 1/2 inch in the corner, so don't drive it square into the corners. But, you know, do one of these numbers. Up to you guys. If you want to add a cleat in here to raise it up off of the ground, not a bad idea. Otherwise, here's what I'm thinking. Just set the board in here so that it's there. Then you're going to put your flush cut saw on the top of it, and then you're going to cut out this corner. Now what this does is it matches all the correct angles so that it sits on the ground correctly. I guess unless you glue this into place, which I think would look kind of silly because you're going to see that bump versus not seeing it, you only need one of these. Why am I winded? Cut out the other 4. No, 3. If you guys have a wobble, which I do, take a block of wood, put it underneath one of the corners that was touching, and just kind of gently press down. Definitely a workbench issue. The top, we are doing the same that we had done for the bottom. However, we are cutting these legs flush with the top edge of this board so that our lip can sit right on the top of it. I'm going to do that with a little tough built pole saw. Watch this. Watch out. A little more. They have an aggressive side and a not aggressive side. I never use aggressive. Yikes. Yeah, this is definitely the way to go. I cut some carbon fiber with this and it's sucked ever since. Carbon fiber dulls those babies. Repeat for the other sides. I just like the noise. Hey, same measurement as the 3 Picket planter. Probably gonna make mine 15 5/8. This planter, you do not need that extra sliver for the inside, so if you want to make them a little bit wider lip, I'm gonna make them match the other planters. I like how those look. Let's head over to the miter saw. Grab your last 1 3/4 inch board, first starting out with a 45-degree angle. Flip your board over, measure down 15 5/8 inch, and make your cut. Then repeat that 4 times. We're going to add some glue around the top. Take our mitered boards, and how I do it, I find which side I want to be up. I take this corner and this corner, and I'm lining it up on this board, just like this, making sure I don't make it all wonky. Sometimes I just go like this, set it down, straight, lean back. That's pretty much exactly where it's got to go. Just repeat that down this side. This side, ooh, that's pretty. And make sure that they are in line with the rest of the board. That's pretty. So pretty. And nail them into place. I like to nail the corners so they are kind of at angles to help keep these nice and tight so they don't drift apart later on from being outside in the cold and heat and cold and heat and cold and heat. And I put one in the center just so if somebody goes to pick it up from the center, a little bit extra support, pushing that glue in. Nice. Oh, I'm going to guess this takes 98 nails because we're almost out. I just feel with my finger how far in this goes. So I do a 5/8 after this small lip. Make sure you're also shooting these at a slight angle because the planter box angles. Did you get 96? What? Now, our planter box has all kinds of drainage because those inside boards aren't tight at all. I just like to add at least one screw into the center because again, that dirt is going to get hard. Water's going to rush in. It's just going to pour right out the sides. However, once it kind of saturates, I'd like it to have a center drain. And it's mainly just so people can see it and be like, oh yeah, drain holes. Or the whole box is a drain hole. There you go. Now it's done.